What's tonight all about? What impact does it have on you and me? Why is your life still not easy? And how are we supposed to respond to tonight? Those are the four things that are on my mind. So first, what's tonight all about? This should be relatively obvious, but for most of us, I don't think it quite is. When we talk about the gospel, which is the good news of Jesus, who has entered into the midst of humanity, it's almost as if we take Christmas and Easter and we separate them. We take the baby who's in the crib, and it's almost like we don't recognize that it's the same person on the cross. But the good news of Jesus is that it's a baby who tonight we're celebrating, who has a special mission. To get a better sense of what we're celebrating tonight, I'd like to share a story I heard recently. Sir Nicholas Winton was a young Englishman, just as World War II was about to break out. Nazi Germany had invaded Czechoslovakia and forced many people, including Jews, to flee into refugee camps. These people were often poor and weren't permitted to leave their country, especially in a dire strait like that. So they were stuck in these refugee camps, and what that meant is it was cold, they didn't have many provisions, and they were vulnerable to being caught by the Nazis. And that's where Nicholas Winton comes in, because he saw that these people were in trouble, and especially the children. And so what he did is he organized a secret operation whereby he would secure travel documents for these children and take them out of the country and transport them to England. Parent after parent after parent were just bringing their children to him saying, "Please take my child." They were desperate because they didn't know what was going to happen to them at the hand of the Nazis. And so Winton, he rounded up about 700 children. He packed them on trains and had them shipped across Europe, where eventually they would be kept safe in Britain until after the war. Little did those children know that not long after this, their parents and many of their other family members would also be shipped on trains, but not to safety, and instead to concentration camps where they would never see them again. Now, why did this man, Nicholas Winton, go to Prague of the Czech Republic? Was it because he always wanted to see the beautiful Baroque churches there? They do have beautiful churches there. Was it because the Eastern European food, the potato pancakes and sausage, were to die for? No, that's not why he went. He was there on a mission. It was a rescue mission. That's why he was there for. He was there to pull children out of harm's way, to save them from the grip of a tyrannical regime. And so here's your connection. Why is he over there? That little baby in the manger. Why is he in there? Why has God become one of us? Well, the answer to that should be pretty obvious, where we can look at Jesus and we know that he has become one of us in order to rescue us. But so often what we've done is we turn Jesus into some teacher who just told stories, told parables, maybe performed a few miracles, and taught us to be good. And that's all we ever get from our image of Jesus. Now, Jesus did all those things, mind you, but that's not why he came. It's not why Jesus came. God became man for the same reason that Nicholas Winton went to Prague. God became man to rescue, to liberate, and to deliver you and me who were in the grip of an enemy much greater and much stronger than the Nazis. Just as Winton risked himself by entering into a place that he didn't know he was going to get himself out of, he found those children worth rescuing, to go all the way to a different country to rescue people you do not know. Jesus has also entered our flesh, our existence and our humanity because he found us worth rescuing. And each of us is one of those children who is worth saving because God has found us worth saving, and that's why he's become one of us. Listen to the words that we just heard from the prophet Isaiah in the first reading. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Upon those who dwelt in the land of gloom, a light has shone. For the yoke that burdened them, the rod of their taskmaster, you have smashed. That's the message of the good news that we're hearing tonight. That God has literally smashed the burden that held us bound to rescue us from darkness and sin. Now you might be asking yourself, what do we need to be rescued from? My response is, look around you. Look first of all at the very reality of sickness and death that's present in our life. Lots of us have lost relatives and loved ones within the last year. And anytime that happens, you're brought closer and closer to the very reality that someday you will experience what they have experienced. Or think about the violence and hatred that's all around us, the wars that are going on, all the conflicts between family members and friends. But even more so, think about your own life. All of the things that you do that you know you're not supposed to do, that I do that I know I'm not supposed to do, that I do on a regular basis. That's the reality of sin. And we're constantly in bondage to those things that just pull us down and keep us from living out the image of God that has been planted in us. They keep us from being the best version of our very selves. And so if you think there's nothing that we need to be saved from, well, think again. Amidst all the sadness and sin that surrounds us, death and sin have to be conquered by somebody. Someone has to enter in. And so what we're celebrating tonight is someone has entered in. And it's that baby boy who was born in the manger tonight. It's the baby who is destined to go from that manger to that cross. He's destined to go from that joy to that sorrow. And he's destined to go from that nurturing companionship to that isolation up there. All for you and me. That's what we're celebrating tonight. Which brings us to our third question. If it is true that Jesus has really saved us, then why is my life still not easy? Why do I still suffer? Why do I still have disappointments? Why is the world so screwed up if Jesus has truly conquered sin and death? Well, I want you to picture yourself and imagine yourself as one of those children that was rescued by Nicholas Winton. Your life has been saved from an enemy. But in no way does that mean that your life is going to be easy for the rest of it. You have to cope with the fact that returning to your homeland, you find out that your parents and many of your family members did not make it. You have to readjust to life on your own without those closest to you. And if you're in Czechoslovakia at the time, you've gone from being ruled by the Nazis to now being ruled by Soviet communists. The rest of your life is not going to be a walk in the park. But here's the thing, the worst part is over. Because now you've been rescued. Now you've been liberated. Evil and suffering still affect you, but it no longer has power over you. And in the same way, you and I have experienced the power of the joy of Christ conquering death within us. We've been rescued, but it doesn't mean we no longer have evil in our life and in our world. There's still war, there's still suffering, people still commit evil, you and I still commit evil. The battle still goes on, but our hope has been restored because Christ has come into the world to conquer whatever it is that takes away our hope and our peace. Evil does not have to control my life, and it doesn't have to control yours. That's what we're celebrating tonight. So how do we respond to all of this? Well, let's go back to Nicholas Winton. During the entire time that this rescue operation was going on, where he rescued all these children, nobody knew who was the mastermind behind all of it. In fact, he kept it a secret for 50 years, until his wife was in their attic one day at their home and was going through these old records, and she found these records that had names of all the children that he had rescued, all of the almost 700 children that he had saved. So 50 years later, he was invited to a show on the BBC, where it was announced that everyone who was sitting next to him in the crowd were the children that he had saved 50 years earlier. And now they were grown up, having had children and grandchildren. And the reason all those people were alive was because of him. And they were there to thank him, to show their gratitude to him for what he had done for them. When we're young, we're not totally conscious of what other people do for us, and so we're not readily about to respond with thanksgiving and gratitude. But when we're fully matured, when we get older, and you look back on what someone has done for you, then you're able to respond with a firm thank you. Grateful for what that person has done for you. So how do you and I respond to the one who has done so much more in rescuing you and me from sin and death? Do we respond with gratitude for what Jesus has done for us? At the end of his life, Nicholas Winton was asked the question, what advice can you share that you've learned throughout your life? He said this: be prepared to help other people when there's an opportunity to do so. When you have been rescued yourself, now you get to take part in the rescuing of others. I heard a phrase that goes like this: rescued people rescue people. Rescued people rescue people. When your life has been changed by the gospel of Jesus, now you're tasked with being part of the rescue mission. Think about all the people in your life who need rescuing. Let's celebrate this Christmas as a time to thank God for rescuing us. And let's respond accordingly. Amen.